So one of the things you definitely want to do relative to internet marketing is you definitely want to own what's called the industry keyword. Industry keyword. What is that? That's the main word that people are Googling when they're looking to buy a particular product or service. So in chiropractic, what is that? Well, it's chiropractor location. So there's a few variations, but remember, 75% of the people will pick after a referral. 75% of the people will pick a chiropractor based on location. And then the third category is 15 to 20% insurance. So though you have to, that's why it's so important that you know the source of where the patients are coming from, and you're very specific, not general. Like you'd never say to a patient, "How'd you hear about us?" And they say the internet. That's too general. Okay. It may have been a referral and they went to the internet to find your number. So we need to know it, number one, for return on investment. What's working? That's number one, why you need to know. Especially if you're doing pay-per-click, you better definitely interrogate your patient deeper. You go, if you don't mind me asking, what specifically did you do on the internet? Where did you find it? See, that's how I would go deeper, not just, oh, I found you on Google. That's unacceptable. And I always recommend the doctor do it. And it doesn't matter if it's written on your intake form. You always want to do a deep dive and find out very specifically how that patient got to you. And even after I find out, a lot of times I'll say, so you weren't referred by a family member or friend? In other words, I'll make a real clear distinction, and I'm going to make a real clear distinction where they did find me. It's not going to be general. So you got to do a deeper dive. So having said that, the other reason is you need to know your keyword. Well, we already kind of know what the keywords are in the industry, but now it depends on where you're at. See, so if you're in a suburb, a well-defined psychographic suburb, like here, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. It's not too big now. And so people or let's give an example like Dallas. People won't Google Dallas. They'll learn real quick that that's too far away. It's too big and too far away. So if they live in Irving, they'll Google Irving. They won't Google Dallas. Okay. So you definitely, depending on the size of your area, generally, if you're 100,000 or less, you're fine with that word. In other words, people won't have to drive too far to come and see you. But if you're about 150,000 to 250,000 population, usually your city is going to be divided into a north and a south and an east or a west. And what'll divide it is a psychographic barrier, like a river, a railroad track, stuff like that. When it's over 250,000 population, like Dallas, Tampa, Miami, those are too big. And so you don't want to be, that's not the industry keyword you want to know. So if you're in a suburb or you're in a relatively small town, it'll be really easy, to find that out. You're in a small town of 30,000. It is what it is. It's the name of that town. That's what it is. Okay. That's real easy. If you're in a suburb and it's a area of like 100,000 or less, and it's a well-defined name, that's pretty easy. But you need to just confirm all this. The hardest one is if you're in a major metropolitan area and you're not in a well-defined suburb. So I got a friend like that. He's in Arizona and he's not in any of the well-defined Glendale. He's not in any of that. So he had to do a lot of research to see what are people Googling in my area. He needed to find those keywords. So he had to do a lot of research. And that's why we say you need to find out with your patients, continually find out, what is it they're searching for. Same with referrals. You need to know just that so you can thank the people who referred them in. And remember, they go to, remember your patient list, we separate out into the A, B, and C category. And so you'll take them out of the general list and you'll move them into the B list if they've referred at least one person. If they referred two or more, you'll move them into the A list. And that gets to be real important when it comes to marketing, because it's your 20 percenters that are going to give you 80% of the referrals.